Today, I'm interviewing retired FBI agent Jack Garcia. Jack is known for working 24 of his 26 years of service with the Bureau as an undercover agent. He has worked well over 100 undercover operations, dealing with everything from police corruption and political corruption to working cases against the Colombian and Mexican cartels, Russian organized crime, Asian organized crime, and Italian organized crime cases. The case which Jack became most known for is Operation Jack Falcone. As Jack Falcone, he infiltrated the Gambino crime family in New York. The case resulted in the arrest and conviction of 32 mobsters, including the Gambino leadership and family hierarchy. Jack is considered one of the most successful and prolific agents in the history of the FBI. This is a lengthy interview and will be in parts, so please be patient and tune in. It is a very informative piece.
At what point in your life did you decide that you wanted to join the FBI, and how did you come about doing that?
Well, when I was in college, I was just like your typical, I guess, college student. I was playing football. I was having fun, the time of my life, and not really looking ahead in the future. I mean, this was back in the 70s, and life was good. And what had happened is we went to, which was tradition, every time we played a team, the following that Saturday, we went out Friday nights to the movies, and it was a movie that was playing, and it was Serpico with Al Pacino. And I really watched that. It was, we all know Al Pacino, real cool guy, and here he is working undercover. He's putting down, corruption in the NYPD, and just the way he carried himself. I was like, it just, something went off on me to say, you know what? Here I am, always was wondering as to what I wanted to do as quote unquote when I grew up. Like our parents would always ask us and everyone, and I said, this is what I want to pursue. I want to get into law enforcement. This is an amazing job. I never took criminal justice when I was in college. I don't even think they offered that at the University of Richmond. So what happened was I figured, let me apply for the greatest law enforcement agency in the world, the FBI. So myself, and actually there was another football player who was Cuban, who was from Tampa. By the way, he was the captain of our football team, and we went down and marched to the FBI office and made an application, filled out the paper, but never heard one sound from the FBI. So, I went back home and started looking for jobs as to do. I couldn't find any. I mean, it was very frustrating, and every place that I went to, I was trying to become get into the NYPD. I was trying to get into ATF. I was trying to get into the Secret Service, Long Island Police Department, Suffolk County, Nassau County. Nobody was hiring. It was one of those tough times in 75, 76.
Right.
So I was watching Univision, which back then, and I saw this non-native Spanish speaker who, in Spanish, or rather his attempt at Spanish, was saying how the FBI was looking for Spanish speakers to come and join the Bureau. So that kind of puzzled me because I had an application and I didn't understand why they were advertising when I'm here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the next morning I called the FBI and I said, hey, guys, I have an application. I'm interested in the job. What do I got to do? So they took my information, called me back, and he said to me, well, your application went nowhere. And I said, well, how could that be? I meet the credentials at that time. I had a college degree, and spoke Spanish. And he said, well, the reason is that you're not an American citizen. Now, I consider myself to be like an American in every way. I mean, I ate apple pie and, celebrated July 4th. But it was something that I never pursued. I came into this country as a political refugee. I had a green card, and then I figured, well, let me go to work and become a citizen. So I filled out the necessary applications, and next thing you know, I came in to take the test, and I passed, and I was sworn in I believe it was I was sworn in, I'm trying to think, 1976, which was the bicentennial year.
Right.
And it was such an exciting time for me and a very proud moment, to be amongst so many people that were assembled in Newark, New Jersey, in one of these courtrooms. And I immediately, I think I went directly from getting my certificate, my bicentennial citizenship papers, right to the FBI, and they made a Xerox copy, and they said, okay, we will continue with with processing your application. They called me in, I took the test, and then after, it took me 4 more years before I heard from the FBI, and that's when they gave me an appointment to become a special agent of the FBI, which required me to go to Quantico, Virginia, the FBI Academy, for 16 weeks. And if I passed that, is when I will become an official special agent of the FBI.
Very cool. So that's where that really cool picture of you? I think you're holding like an M16 machine gun.
Right. That was the training. Right.
Yeah.
That was that. But what had happened? The interesting part was that prior to as I was going through the process, I was working as a welfare investigator. I became a fraud investigator at that in Union City, New Jersey. I was working as a welfare investigator in Bergen County, New Jersey, and then I received an appointment to work in the Union County Prosecutor's Office, where I became a investigator. And then I did that for less than a year when the FBI came knocking on my door. So, the training at the FBI Academy was really, for me, it was very pressurized in as much as that, you had a classroom of 30-some-odd agents, male and females, and we were really put through the test. I mean, it was physically, and then we had, of course, tremendous firearm training and academics. I mean, we had to learn all about the law. We had to learn about all types of crimes, and so it really, that was like one of my big accomplishments that I've always looked at. Here I am, I played college football, I graduated college, graduated high school, got a job, but here I am graduating for the FBI, and at that time, I was the second Cuban FBI agent in its history.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was because they didn't have, I came in under the minority program / foreign born / modified. So I met the requirements in all 3 ways of getting in. I was not an attorney, which a lot of the classmates were, or an accountant, which a lot of my classmates were. I was part of that different group where you can get in whether if you have 3 years professional experience, or you speak a language, or you have like a chemistry or that kind of engineering part of it. So I was kind of blessed that I was able to, get into the FBI and especially to graduate from the academy. I mean, that was another tremendous proud moment in my life, to be finally handed what we call the credentials, which is what really the FBI, and of course I remember driving home and putting my credentials on my dashboard, looking at it and saying, this is truly a very proud moment,
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you became known throughout your career working undercover cases, and
no, that's not true.
Really?
So what happened was I went in with this aspiration of working undercover and becoming like an Al Pacino.
Right.
But when I got there, it's kind of like you become Efren Zimbalist Jr. You know, you go buy your three-piece suit, you buy what we used to call the wingtips or the thousand eye shoes, as we used to call them.
Right. So you're like the stereotypical FBI agent.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly like the FBI, like you would imagine an FBI agent to look and dress like.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to work bank robberies and fugitives, which at that time was really the meat and potatoes of the bureau. That was like what you would consider like a term like the wise guys. They call each other, if you're really a bad dude, a tough, they call you a gangster.
Right.
As opposed to a racketeer. Where in the FBI, if you work these kinds of cases, you were known as a heavy. So I wanted to be a heavy. You know, I wanted to go out to the bank robbery scenes and with my fedora, even though I didn't wear a fedora, that was kind of the reputation, you know.
Right.
So this is what I wanted to do, and it wasn't until like a year and a half or 2 years when somebody asked me to do some undercover work because I spoke Spanish. And keeping in mind that Hoover died in '72, there were no women in the FBI at that time. There were very, very few minorities, black agents at that time either. I think there were 5 because of the friction that Hoover had, I believe, with Bobby Kennedy and President Kennedy at the time in hiring minorities.
Right.
They were Spanish speakers, a lot of them of the Mormon faith, and again, being the second Cuban agent, you know, the FBI at the time that I started getting in, it started to become more diversified, but early on, it really, they were not the agents really was not really involved in a lot of undercover work because we didn't kind of represent the demographics in our society when it came to, you know, having male, female, black, white, brown, Hispanic, Asian. So this opportunity came where they needed me since we started working narcotics in the early 80s.
Right.
That they wanted a Spanish speaker, and then of course I didn't carry myself like the agents, having grown up in the Bronx, New York. I was able to kind of be the kind of guy that I went to work undercover.
Right.
So I didn't really start working undercover until like a year and a half, 2 years into the bureau.
Okay. And so when you did go, when they started having you do the undercover cases, when we spoke before, you know, you were telling me, you know, kind of the range of the types of organizations that they had you infiltrate. Can you just kind of give like the gamut of the, you know, the types of criminal organizations that you dealt with?
Well, it was kind of weird because the undercover investigations or undercover scenarios, okay, it's really an investigative technique, okay? It's no different than going in a wiretap or surveillance, an investigative technique. The only problem is that we didn't have the agents to do the undercover work. Now, some of the early undercover works that we did, there's the famous case that they had in Chicago with the corrupt judges. There was also Abscan. There was also Joe Pistone, which his case, I think, ended in 1981. So it wasn't really readily used undercover work. And the reason, again, being because we didn't have the agents, diversity in the agents that we now have.
Right.
Or started to have back then. So when I got into it, not because it was a popular investigative technique, it was because we really didn't know it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't as readily used